What's up there, peeps? Welcome back to Carpos Corner, episode 7, I think. Or I guess it would be to you. I don't know. I don't know how the camera works. Mirror image. I hope everyone's doing well today. It's been a long day. It's been hot in Portland. It's been a warm day for sure. It wasn't too bad, really. I mean, work was a little rough and getting home, but, life just has hot and cold days. Yeah, it really does. And no matter how bad things get, no matter how warm it gets, even though my AC makes my car run like crap so I can't use it, there are worse things like squatters and today's topic, which is squatters' rights. So welcome to Carpos Corner, episode 7. I believe it's episode 7. Today I was going to talk about squatters and people who are willing to go up to an abandoned house, go into that house, decide to live in that house, set up the utilities, and live there. And I don't think enough people really realize how easy this is to do. Now, a person may think, well, if somebody takes over a house that's not theirs, they're going to get kicked out, just like they would if it was a landlord. No, it doesn't work that way. In fact, if you stay in a property long enough, you can own it. So if you go out, theoretically, in some states, if you go out to a farmhouse that's been abandoned, that's owned by, say, a bank, nobody's been to in years, and you move into that farmhouse, you set up utilities, you improve the land, you farm on the land, and you live there for 7 to 10 years, depending on the region. You own that house. Clear as day. That's your property. And we live in a very strange time when I can see how this could be a very important tool for especially bank-owned properties that are being wasted away and places that otherwise would just be abandoned and derelict. And the banks don't care. They own a lot of properties, and there are a lot of people who need to be homed. And I have a very strong empathy for people who are homeless and that need help. But the kind of people that are squatting in homes are not the kind of people who need help. They're the kind of people who don't want help. Often the kind of people who just want to take advantage and even extort. To the point where in Europe, what the people will do is they'll break into an abandoned apartment, a building, or house, and take over an apartment, whether they change the locks. Sometimes they'll change the locks and then sell the key for like $1,000 to one person. Say they'll know they'll be able to live there at least a couple of years before anybody can do anything. Or they will move in themselves and then call the bank and extort them for money and say, hey, we want this amount of money and then we'll leave your flat. And they do. They'll leave. And these are professionals. One guy said he did it up to 50 times a year. In America, they're not quite as savvy. It's more like people just wanting to take advantage and doing it for the sake of not making any effort. And what frustrates me, I'm a homeowner, or at least I'd like to think I own my home, but we've been paying for it for 17 years. We're like every other American, trapped in the debt cycle, but doing our best to make it through like anyone else. So we've worked hard to improve our home and fix it up and to improve our property. Now, if someone pulled an RV up in front of my house tomorrow and just started living there, I would just be, I wouldn't, this just would not happen. I could not handle it. This happens all the time in so many cities, especially in Portland, LA, San Fran. RVs are just living in people's alleys, like right next to their fence, and bringing in all kinds of fucking problems. And it's not that all homeless people are the problem. We know this. There are many people who mean well and just need a place to live. However, you've got to have enough wisdom to not move into people's neighborhoods. People who have worked hard and paid property tax. Meanwhile, a person moves in, and if you don't pay your property tax, you're going to lose your house. What about the person who's living there? They're not even bothered because, the way things are right now. And It's crazy. But the squatting thing is a totally different level. These are people moving into someone's home. So let me give you a story. This man, who was he was a veteran, and I believe, I think he was a veteran, and he'd worked his ass off after he got back to build up, his life to save up enough money to buy a home. He finally had the home of his dreams and everything, and he moves in. Everything's going just fine. He has to go stay with his mother for a few months because she has an operation or some sort of issue. She's passing away. Pick your story. I don't recall exactly what it was. So he leaves for a few months. He comes back, and there are people living in his house. Now, there was nothing he could do about it. I just saw a story about this in Portland where this guy he had the same thing. His mom broke her elbow, and he went to help her for a few months, and he came back, and his house was overrun by a bunch of people living there. They'd sold off all his shit, and there was nothing he could do. And he's trying to put the house on the market, but he can't even sell it. So he has to drop the price like 20 grand because of the fact that there's still people in it that won't leave, and there's no recourse. So what I found out, because I was curious, why aren't there any strong-arm companies to deal with this problem? And I'm sure there are in the shadows. Believe me, if my neighborhood had a bunch of people who were camped out in our yards, we would have it taken care of, because yes, there are acceptable and non-acceptable places to camp. And I want my kids to be protected. I've seen enough needles around my neighborhood alone to not put up with this shit. I don't put up with it, and I won't. And I don't really live in a place where I have to worry too much. I'm in the suburbs a bit, but you walk like 5 blocks, west of here, and that's where I found a whole bunch of needles sitting in the bushes, and it was just disgusting. And, there are a lot of services for the people that need help, but a lot of them don't want it. They want to be able to take things for free. And there are a certain group of people who just take advantage of others. The squatters' rights thing, if you can't get your fucking house back that you've worked for your whole life, then what good is a system at all of justice? So in Europe, what they've done is they actually have strong-arm companies, these, actual like martial arts experts and weightlifters, like, these buff dudes. They'll show up at the door of the place where the people are squatting, and they'll knock, and then they'll have a conversation with the people. And most of the time, I guess, they leave. But a lot of them are trying to negotiate a price, and if they're going to get their asses kicked by some stranger, then, it's often not worth it. And I don't condone violence, but I would just don't know what I would do if somebody took over my life, the place I've lived. It's like when somebody steals your car and you find them living in there. That happened to we've had our car stolen several times. My son had his car stolen twice, his truck in the same month in Portland. And his friend, had the same thing happen, but he had like his life in there. He had all his gear in there, I guess. His tie-dyes he was selling, all his jewelry, all the shit. The guy's just swiped all his stickers, everything off his dashboard, just sold off or gave away everything. And he found the people and ended up getting a gun pulled on him. And it's like, the average citizen has no recourse for this shit. It's bullshit that, you find out somebody stole. This happened to a guy locally here. Somebody stole his car and he called the cops, and then they just ended up coming, I guess, and then they took off. The guy tried to take his car back and he got shot. The cops should be sticking around helping people with these things, and they're not. And like others say, well, they have no obligation to protect. That's correct. And that's why people, I think, need to be a little more aware, personally able to protect themselves in any way they need to. There's no shame in carrying a firearm or a taser or something that might help save you from, some asshole out there trying to attack you, or, there's a lot of bullshit going on, but generally it depends on where you live. The biggest issue to me where I live, honestly, is just, the camping on the side of the freeway and the begging, and it's always been that way, so I'm used to it. But, you know, when it comes to harassing people, that's a whole different story altogether. There's a different breed of homeless these days that are a lot more bold and arrogant and willing to take advantage of others. They're not really... The thing is, a person who's not living in a home doesn't fit into a category, okay? It's not like we have homeless and they're all the same type of people. We have people who have no home, and they may congregate or they may not, but they all have their own ideas of what they want out of life. And each person, we have to remember the unique nature of each individual and what they think is normal and what they expect. And so, yeah, you know, it's weird in the whole homeless situation, but when it comes to living in other people's homes, I mean, I already don't know what to think about living on, you know, sidewalks in front of businesses. It's kind of, you know, if a person's trying to run a legitimate business, it's not going to do if you're sleeping in front of their doorway. But, you know, there's acceptable places and non-acceptable places. And I feel it's the same way with people who are squatters. If you're able to take over a house that nobody's lived in, a derelict place that no human beings own, a bank-owned property, and live there for 10 years and improve on it, good on you. But the sad fact is, if people even move in and just get utilities set up, these people print out fake, you know, rental agreements, fake leases, and then they, fake mail and take it into the utilities, get electric. If you get electric and water hooked up, boom, you know, it's your house. It's crazy. It's insane that this can actually happen in this country. It's that a person could leave their home for a few months, come back and have it taken over by people and not be able to do anything about it legally. Sometimes, I mean, it just blows my mind, I guess, the bullshit that people put up with. The strong arm services would definitely be required. So that's my number 7 of my Carpos corner. Yeah, that's what it is. It's getting kind of late. I'm going to take the dog for a walk. And just thought I'd touch base, make a quick video, because I'm trying to make one each day just because. I don't know why. Because I always have something to say, because I never shut up. And be well. Peace out.